to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and joining me right now is Tyler Tompkins. What is up, dude?
Dude, it's about time we do something. I've been waiting to make a collaboration forever.
I know. So it's awesome. Now we're finally joining forces, and we're going to talk about the second installment in this Warner Brothers Monsterverse called Skull Island. And just so you watching are aware, this is a spoiler talk. So we are going to drop spoilers like crazy in this review. So if you don't want it spoiled, I do have a spoiler free that you could check out right now. Go see the movie, come back, and watch Tyler Tompkins and I just really dig in to this movie. So, Tyler, let's start off by you telling us a little bit about your channel and what you do.
Yeah, again, I appreciate you having me on your channel, Durbin, but I do exactly what Durbin does: movie reviews, TV reviews, and sometimes I show off my Blu-ray collection.
Cool. All right. So Tyler, I gave this movie a B+, and I saw that you gave it a B. So we gave this movie very similar grades. So let me just toss this over to you and tell me some of the things that you really enjoyed about this movie.
All right, I actually prepared a list because there were quite a few things I did enjoy about this movie. It's being relatively pretty positively received, and one of the main things I really liked about this movie that I didn't talk about in my review, I wanted to save it for this one, was the cinematography. I thought this movie was gorgeous.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely gorgeous. It was shot by Larry Fong, who's a friend to Warner Brothers. He's shot other movies like Sucker Punch and Batman vs. Superman, but that was by far my favorite part. And I remember listening to your review and how you talked about you love the silhouette of Kong whenever they first get to the island. You can see him in the background, and you can see the sunset and whatnot. That's probably my favorite shot in the entire movie. But there were many other jaw-dropping scenes that were just as beautiful as that one too. That was definitely one of the highlights.
And I was surprised too because they showed a lot in the trailer, and I was concerned that having seen a lot of those shots in the trailer, that getting to the big screen, it's like it would all be ruined. But even the ones that were in the trailer and on the big screen, I don't feel like they were ruined.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of the how Kong looked and whatnot, that was another thing I really liked. I love the way that Kong looked. He looked very different than we're used to seeing him, especially Peter Jackson's King Kong. Instead of standing on 4, this Kong stands on 2 legs the whole time and walks around like a human being. And he's ginormous too. He's probably 5 times bigger than Peter Jackson's King Kong as well. That's another thing I really liked about this version of Kong.
Yeah, no, I really like that too. That was a really cool way that they portrayed him.
Yeah, and then a few other things too. I also liked some of the editing. I don't know if you follow the director on Twitter, but he talked about how he really kind of wanted to bring a sense of a rhythmic style to the editing, and I liked a lot of those scenes, such as whenever the helicopters first get to Skull Island. The music is great too, by the way. Great soundtrack, 70s soundtrack. Yes. Whenever I think War Pigs is playing, like the helicopter blades, it would slow down in slow motion to the beat of the music, and the bobblehead, the Richard Nixon bobblehead. I liked a lot of those scenes too because it implemented his style into the movie, and I thought that was just a lot of fun too because there are a lot of scenes with that style of editing.
Yeah. It was really interesting how they used that Richard Nixon bobblehead in just a few of the transitions and the helicopter crashes. Like, it was funny. And it was, like, well done. Like, it was artistic, it looked great, and I got a good chuckle out of it. Like, I mean, all kinds of little things like that, and how the film was shot and edited, I agree with you. It was so brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. And I'd say probably, out of the performances, I'll talk about that a little bit more whenever we get into the dislikes. I thought John C. Reilly stole the entire movie. His character was by far the most engaging to me, and he hit every single comedic element and every comedic beat, but as I said in my review, that's kind of to be expected because of how great of an actor he is. So I was very impressed with him, and like I said, he got the most characterization. I loved, at the beginning, it actually surprised me a lot, those 2 soldiers, the World War II soldiers that landed on the island. I thought that was actually pretty neat, and I was kind of unsure how that would come into play, but it was cool seeing that kind of unfold, and that kind of is what gave his character meaning.
Yeah, it's interesting, because one of the notes that I actually have, too, about the characterization is there were 2 characters that felt like they were the most fleshed out in this movie, and it was Samuel L. Jackson and it was John C. Reilly. And like you said about John C. Reilly, I love the movie opening with a young John C. Reilly and the Japanese soldier landing on the island together. And we see them enemies, and then Kong interrupts their fight. And then later we find out that those 2 became brothers, that, you put the war and the uniforms aside, that these 2 became brothers on this island, surviving it together. And one of the things that surprised me about John C. Reilly, I always knew, like, good comedian, great comedic actor, he has great comedic timing, but those scenes where he got emotional and choked up whenever he was talking about, his brother, the guy lost with him on the island, when he was saying goodbye to his friend's body when it was buried, like, those moments where he had emotion, that was good.
I'm really glad. Sorry to interrupt. I'm really glad you brought that up because I didn't write it down. That was excellent. That was excellent. I really liked that scene when he was saying bye to the Islanders. I thought that was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And so I think that impressed me most about John C. Reilly. But then the other thing was, as soon as he came on screen, I felt like, in terms of characters that the movie followed, he became the focal point. And I don't know if that's to the movie's negative or to the movie's positive, because he probably wasn't supposed to be the focal point, but I really liked him, so I didn't mind him becoming that focal point, because you have that scene where he talks about how he misses home, having that beer and the hot dog. Yeah. And then in the end credits, he finally comes home, and again, the emotion on his face when he meets his son for the first time and sees that his wife waited for him, it's amazing. But then that last shot of him sitting on the couch with a beer and a hot dog.
Watching the Cubs play.
Yes!
Yes, that was so good.
That got me.
I'm so glad they put... you know what? I'll tell you, also, I know we're not on the dislikes yet. I wasn't a huge fan of the ending, but I'm so glad that they put that at the end of the movie, him coming home. I thought that was perfect. I'm so glad they did that, and I almost wish that Warner Brothers would just make a prequel about John C. Reilly living on the island with the Islanders, surviving the ants and all the other creatures. That would be excellent. I would love to see that movie.
Because, you had that one scene where you hear that bird whistle. He's like, oh, there's an ant right now. And it's like, wait, that's an ant? He goes, yeah, they sound like birds, but that is an ant. It's like, are you going to fight them? I want to see this ant. I was kind of sad we didn't see these giant bird whistling ants.
Yeah, I know. That was probably the funniest part, just the line he delivered on that one scene.
Oh, yeah.
That cracked me up big time. That just, again, goes to show how well of an actor he is, nailing all of those comedic moments.
And then the other character who I thought was the most fleshed out, other than John C. Reilly, was Samuel L. Jackson. Because, I mean, we get it clear just from the moment we meet him, like, with the Vietnam War ending and all that stuff. Like, he's directionless. You can tell he's like a soldier, and he doesn't know who he is without being a soldier. He doesn't know who he is without a war. So he goes to this island not knowing what to find, but you can just tell he's looking for an enemy. He makes Kong that enemy and starts to lose his mind because, like, he has to be driven by that. And I just thought John C. Reilly and Samuel L. Jackson were the most interesting characters in this movie. And to watch Sam Jackson slowly lose his mind in this movie, it was such an interesting character journey for me with him. What did you think of Sam Jackson in this?
Yeah, 100% agree. He was definitely my second favorite character in the movie, and even though he didn't really have that much characterization, I mean, I'm going to echo what you said. Sam Jackson is almost that. He's just that good of he is that good of an actor that there was really no need for backstory just because of how he's able to convey emotion and whatnot. And I also, speaking of John C. Reilly and Sam Jackson, I like the moral dilemma too, kind of, where the people with John C. Reilly, they wanted to keep Kong alive because, it keeps that natural balance. Kong is able to keep the creatures, steady. He's able to keep the island steady and kind of protect the islanders in a way, whereas Sam Jackson wants to destroy him because of what Kong did to his men. And if Kong was dead, then there would be just total chaos on the island because of all these creatures. It would just turn into it'd be insane.
And I don't know if it was rage or pride in Sam Jackson, but he's like, okay, fine, we kill the monkey and then the big lizard comes out, we'll kill that too. Yeah. And it's like, dang, is he just that insane? Or is he that prideful? Or is he that angry? And so I thought that was just an interesting look at his character, the way he processed like that kind of information. Like, he was not going to listen to reason. And I'm glad you touched on that storyline, because that gave this movie more story than I thought it was going to have. I didn't know what, like, the story or the plot was going to be, but, to have John Goodman be this guy that wants to prove monsters exist because he was the only survivor of this ship that I think Godzilla destroyed, actually, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's actually... You're probably right. That didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, and so then he goes on this island because of what they find on satellites, and he knows there's a giant something here, and so he just wants to prove it through his own vendetta. But once they get there, then you have this other plot that rises up of Kong keeps the balance like Godzilla keeps the balance in the first movie. So now you see the types of beasts that keep the balance. And if you take out Godzilla, then the mean evil creatures are going to rise up, and there's going to be no balance. And so I thought that added some good tension for me. It gave me a reason to root for Kong to survive and not view him as a monster.
I 100% agree. That's, again, thanks for bringing up that Godzilla thing. I didn't even think about that. But that's what's also going to kind of make it. It's going to be a very interesting battle, and I believe the movie comes out in 2020 whenever Godzilla and King Kong fight, and I guess they're going to fight in the U.S., but maybe not. I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting fight.
And it's interesting, too, because I feel like it's going to be like the superhero fights, like Civil War. Because, in Civil War, Captain America is not going to kill Iron Man.
No.
And somehow they're going to be friends again. So it's not that Kong or Godzilla is going to kill the other. Somehow they're going to come out friends. It's just a question of what is going to unite their forces.
Yeah, exactly. And who are, even more curious, who are they going to be fighting against after they're done fighting each other? That's going to be another interesting thing. Obviously, it has to be, even worse than the Skull Crushers or whatever that was that Godzilla had to fight in that movie. So that'll be very interesting to see as well.
So one more positive, then we'll hit our negatives. The monster fights. I flippin' loved the monster fights. What did you think of the monster fights?
They were fantastic. Every time Kong was on screen, totally engaged. They were probably the best. They were the best parts of the entire movie, especially that last one. I love the scene where he grabs that tree. He puts his hand on and he rips off all the leaves and branches. And this is a spoiler review, so I'm glad I can talk about it. When he rips the tongue out of the skull crawler, that was that was fantastic.
Yeah, that fight was truly a very good, epic ending battle between Kong and the final boss.
I was pleased.
And when he ripped the tongue out of that thing, it reminded me of the 2014 Godzilla, when Godzilla opened the mouth of that other monster and breathed fire down his throat and then threw his head to the side. It kind of reminded me of that exact same closing move, but it was just so epic. I thoroughly enjoyed that scene.
That's one of the scenes I'm going to be looking forward to watching again whenever I rewatch the movie. I just wish there would have been more, as always, but we'll be getting plenty of Kong fights in the future, I'm sure.
Jumping now from our extreme positives into some of our negatives. One of the first things I didn't go over this a lot in my spoiler-free because I really wanted to save this for the spoiler talk. But for me, one of the big negatives was the complete wasting of John Goodman. Like, he is such a good actor.
Oh my gosh.
And his character had a great setup, like passionately trying to prove monsters exist. I felt like he was kind of a slime ball, but with a hint of maybe goodness or honor in there somewhere. And then he just gets eaten. So he didn't, we get to the island, we get a little John Goodman, but he then takes a back seat. And then in 1 second, a skull crawler eats him. And so, we got no good resolution to his story. And then the whole time he was on screen, I felt like, especially after watching 10 Cloverfield Lane and knowing what this guy is capable of, the fact that we didn't get the fullness of John Goodman we could have got kind of disappointed me.
Dude, I'm so glad I'm glad that you share the same love as me for 10 Cloverfield Lane. That is a fantastic movie. Goodman should have won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
He was so good in that movie, and I thought he would be good in this one. I thought he would be, almost as menacing. Have you ever seen the movie Deep Blue Sea?
Yes, it's been a while, but yes.
Okay, well, there's a scene where Sam Jackson, oddly enough, do you remember where the shark comes out and just eats him out of nowhere?
Yes, because I was laughing when I probably shouldn't have been.
That's what I did in this movie. It reminded me of that, and I laughed, and I was thinking to myself, "Are you kidding me? Because, you said, they gave him kind of the most backstory aside from John C. Reilly because they really set him up in the beginning of the movie, and that's where kind of my issue lies with the characterization of the characters. There's just really, I didn't think it was that good, and I thought the first 20 to 25 minutes of the movie was pretty boring. I don't know. I think it was just the script. I thought there were a lot of forced comedic moments and that they tried too hard. But John Goodman, I was so interested in him. And like you said, that performance he gave in 10 Cloverfield Lane, I just expected a lot more. And I was really disappointed to see his character go like that because I thought he would survive for sure.
That's kind of what made me sad. And also because he had such great setup.
Yeah.
And he could have been very menacing. He could have been probably more twisted and evil than even Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
But not only did we get rid of him really quick, but we put him in the back seat really quick. And so I think he gave a great performance for what he was given and for the lines that he had.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think there was the opportunity for him to shine like he did in 10 Cloverfield Lane or to shine like he has in other films that he's done. And I was disappointed in their use of him in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know I guess that's kind of it's kind of the director's fault a little bit and the people that wrote the script, but that kind of goes back to just, I mean, I don't know how you felt about this, but I just thought there were way too many characters. Like Toby Kebbell, I did not care about his character at all. I didn't even think...
which one was he?
He was Chaplin or Chapin or whatever.
Oh, okay, yes.
I did not care. I don't even think he gave that good of a performance. You know, he was doing that southern accent or whatever. He was his death was, you know, used to kind of, you know, it turned Sam Jackson into the way he was, of course, along with the other men that died. But I didn't care when Toby Kebbell died at all. I didn't care at all.
Yeah, and that's funny because I felt the same. And then, you know, you had Chaplin always writing these notes to Billy, his son. Yeah. And I think that was supposed to endear us to him so that when he did die, we'd feel that emotion.
I did too.
And like you said, I just didn't. It's and I can't put my finger on it. It's just he wasn't fleshed out enough, I guess. We didn't get enough time with him. We really didn't dive deep. No. So when he died, it was like, well, okay, whatever.
Yeah, that is exactly how I felt.
I wish Brie Larson's character got fleshed out a little bit more because I felt like she was just thrown into the mix just to be there, and because Kong needs a female character to attach to because that's just part of the classic story. Otherwise, like, I don't know. How does a photographer force her way onto a military mission like this? Like,
it's a massive plot hole, and that goes back to, I mean, I don't know how you feel about Peter Jackson's Kong. I think that movie's a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite
I haven't seen it in a while. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, I liked the first half, and I didn't like the second half as much. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that movie's a masterpiece, and if you know, it follows the same lines as like the 1933 Kong or whatever. And as you said, there's a female, you know, lead in that one, and exactly what you said. I think they were trying to make Brie Larson that girl. And you know, it kind of worked, but like you said, why would she be on the island? Why would you even bring someone like her to go with you? It didn't really make any sense at all.
I liked her. I like her as an actress. I thought she did good, but I just would have liked to seen her character have more of a purpose for being there.
Yeah, it was like Tom Hiddleston too. I mean, he was good. I thought he was really good in the movie actually, but I could have used a little bit more from him too because we really don't know that much about him other than he's awesome and he knows how to lead people and kill creatures and whatnot. You know what I mean?
And this is when in my spoiler free, I said I was kind of let down in the ending, but mostly I was let down in the ending because of characterizations. Like we didn't get completions of characters. So you had Loki, for instance, who is, I call him Loki. I know he's Tom Hiddleston, but I just call him Loki.
I like Loki better.
Yeah. So you have Loki, and in the beginning of this movie, John Goodman makes the point like, well, people go to war looking for something. The fact that you're not trying to go home means you haven't found it. But I didn't get evidence throughout this movie that he found it. Like, I didn't really see he and Brie Larson fall in love with each other, so I didn't see him find what he's looking for in love. I didn't see him find what he was looking for in purpose of protecting the gorilla. Like, I just... that's another resolution that I didn't get, and that's what I wanted to get.
You're right, there was really no... You're right about the romance kind of with Brie Larson. It wasn't really there at all, and... as I said earlier, I like the John C. Reilly clip that they put at the end. I'm so glad that was there because... I don't know if they necessarily knew how they were going to end this movie in the first place because whenever it first ended, I was thinking, okay, this is just setup. This just feels like setup. Come on. But then they played that John C. Reilly thing, and it was, they kind of redeemed themselves for me. But I still think it could have ended better because there's still so many questions to be asked. Like I said earlier, what characters are going to come back? Are they going to come back for previous installments or what? It kind of felt like a cop-out.
Yeah, I guess that's what I felt like too. Like as soon as I saw the silhouettes of those helicopters coming from, I was like, oh, this is it?
Yeah.
Ah, man. And it was such an epic fight between Kong and the Master Skull Crusher too. And that was awesome, but then to not get kind of like the completed story of some of these characters and just kind of ending it, it's like, oh. And that's where I agree with you. I didn't think about it till you said it, but it's like it's almost like they didn't really know how they were going to end it, and that part felt a little rushed.
And that was kind of me relating it back to the King Kong because the third act he gets to go back to the world. I was really hoping we would get to see this Kong at least see him a little bit in the U.S. or wherever just somewhere off of the island. But maybe they want to make another movie on the island or. I doubt it, but I don't know. I don't know.
Or maybe the Godzilla vs. Kong movie will be when he leaves the island captured by people or something, and that'll be the more typical story. So, who knows?
That's actually a good point, too. And also, one other my negatives was I thought the movie was kind of tonally all over the place at times. I didn't think it was really consistent. I know they were going for, that fun vibe, which was, it was evident throughout the entire movie. It was a fun movie. It was a different take. But... I don't know how you felt about this, but when some of the men would die and they died in pretty barbaric ways, like John Goodman, it kind of felt weird seeing it with that fun tone. I was thinking to myself, I should be terrified of this monster right now, but I'm not really affected at all.
Yeah, I agree. Because, like, you are right. There are moments where, like, John C. Reilly and other characters like that, and they were shining on screen, and the tone of the movie was uplifted.
Yes.
Then you have John Goodman suddenly eaten by a skull crusher, and what's supposed to freak you out, and then you have Loki wearing a gas mask, going through, like, green gas, slicing birds with a samurai sword.
Which looked cool.
And honestly,
I mean, it looked cool when
it looked
did it.
awesome.
It was
it's
really
like,
cool.
But you went from comedy to monster gore to huge action hero cutting through pterodactyls with a samurai sword. And so you're right, like, even in just a few short minutes there, like, the tone shifted 3 different times.
That's another thing, too. I know we've kind of hit on it, but I am nervous for this monster universe because I did look it up. Apparently, Godzilla 2 is coming out in 2019, and then they're doing Godzilla versus King Kong. I feel like that's a little bit rushed. So, I wish they kind of would have... I still like this movie a lot. I liked it more than, probably the average person, but it's still not perfect, and I still would like to see a sequel to Kong before we jump into Godzilla versus King Kong, but
I would too.
Hopefully it doesn't turn out like Batman v Superman.
I hope not. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that is Tyler's and my thoughts on Kong Skull Island. If you saw the movie, which I hope you did if you're watching a spoiler talk, what are your thoughts on this movie? Please let us know in the comments. And make sure you check out Tyler Tompkins' channel and hit the subscribe button on his channel. His channel's growing really fast. He does a lot of really cool things. Tyler, tell us a little bit about your channel and what you do again.
Yeah, again, just same as Durbin, pretty much movie reviews. I've already put up a non-spoiler review of Kong, as Durbin said. You can go and check that out, and I try to see as many movies as I can. I'll review TV shows every now and then. I'm trying to see more of those and review those as well. And as I mentioned earlier, I do monthly Blu-ray collection videos where I show off a little bit of my Blu-ray collection.
Awesome. So make sure you go over there, check out Tyler Tompkins' channel, and hit that subscribe button. And right here on Durbania, hit that subscribe button and become a Durbanian. Next to that subscribe button is that little bell. Click that bell. You'll be notified the moment I drop any new videos. Got lots of other videos and reviews for you to check out here, so make sure you check those out. I'm Durbin. This is Tyler Tompkins. Thank you so much for joining me, Tyler.
Thank you so much again for having me, man. We'll have to do another one of these soon.
Oh, yes, we will. Anytime. And thank you for checking out Durbania.